Just a little logistical note, I forgot to mention at the beginning, this is our commitment weekend for the annual Catholic Appeal. So if you brought your commitment envelope, thank you for that. You put it in the basket, and then we'll set those aside and send those to the diocese. As we saw in our video last week, the ACA does so much good for so many people throughout our 19 counties. Last year, we were still talking about the ACA in May, so let's knock this out and get it done. A couple of years ago, I learned that there's a special name for this weekend, not this particular Sunday in February. I mean, in relationship to when Easter falls. It's called Septuagesima Sunday. It means like the 70 days before Easter, and it used to be like a little pre-Lent. So like you could stop singing the Alleluia, you could start wearing the violet vestments. It was like this little mini season before the season of Lent. And maybe it's kind of wild to think about that, since we know that Lent is a season of preparation for Easter. So it was like a little mini season of preparation for the season of preparation for Easter. But I think in some way, even though we don't do all the other stuff anymore as part of our ordinary time, I think it should maybe be helpful to have like this day where we're thinking ahead to the season of Lent. Because I don't know about you, but Lent always sneaks up on me, even if it's late like it is this year. You know, we sort of go along with life, and I'm like, oh man, do we have ashes for tomorrow? Like, oh. And maybe we wake up and it's, Ash Wednesday or later. I'm like, I didn't even think about, what I want to do for Lent. Maybe I'll just do the same thing I did last year and all that. I think Lent is meant to be ultimately intentional if it's going to be helpful for us. And so in the ways that we look to live out Lent, maybe now is a good time to start thinking about this. And I was thinking in a particular way with the Jubilee year that we're still kind of in the beginning part of. This great Jubilee year, which brings us the gifts of greater forgiveness and freedom and fullness. It's the time of restoration, of renewal, kind of a fresh start for us in our spiritual lives. So the Jubilee year and what that is meant to entail, I think is actually pretty similar to Lent, right? Kind of the fresh start, the renewal, the forgiveness that brings us into greater freedom and fullness in our relationship with God and with others. I think it's good to know where the Lord is calling us to step into that more. And so I think our readings today are actually a good jumping off point for thinking about that. Because we know that it's just so easy to get sort of caught up in the everyday stuff of life. So Jesus presents us with these challenging words today about what's for our true and ultimate happiness. And he even declares woe, not with an H, like whoa, but woe. To us when we're already rich and filled and feeling good and all this kind of stuff. I think it's about that temptation that we have to just become overly attached to certain things, whether it's material things, which can then lead us down the road of being, greedy, selfish, jealous, envious, whether it's that temptation we have to just be satisfied. Let's be honest, we're people who like our comfort, myself included, maybe a little overconsumption, those kind of things. Maybe we're a little too caught up in our distractions and our entertainments of just sort of looking to just feel good all the time. Maybe we're too caught up in the desire for others to speak well of us, for popularity, for acclaim, for status. So the gospel challenges us to say, when have we kind of been caught up too much in that? And that's maybe what we need to let go of, so that we can step more into our hearts being set on greater things, which in Jesus' list of things that make us blessed don't sound too good on first glance, being poor and hungry and weeping and hated and insulted and excluded and all those things. But ultimately that speaks to our detachment from those things that keep us from entering into a relationship with God above all things. That word beatitude, it can mean blessed, it can mean happy. It really means not a feeling, the whole state of being, a state of being that has God as its very source in our life. I think our first reading from Jeremiah that's paired with our gospel speaks well of that, because it talks about blessed is the one who is like a tree planted beside the waters, that reaches out its roots to the stream, that enables it to always stay green and bear fruit even when the heat comes. Throughout the whole of the scriptures, God is defined as living water that is the source of life. So we could think of the water out of the rock that Moses got for the people in the desert. We could think of, like I talked about a couple weeks ago, that prophecy in Ezekiel 47 about the water that flows out of the temple and brings life. We could think about Jesus' conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well, where he tells her that he's going to bring this river of life-giving water. So to see God as the source of our life, to continue to reach out and stay connected to that source. To their Jubilee year, Pope Francis has called a Jubilee year of hope. And in Hebrew, the word for hope also means pool, like a pool of water. So we see this hope connected to water, which gives life. And so our hope is always found in God, the source of our ultimate hope in life. In the flood of his own life, his own love, his own mercy, his own peace, his own grace, that he looks to really have well up within us. Our hope that is not just wishful thinking, but is in reality a fact because we belong to Jesus, who has risen from the dead. A source of the promise of resurrection that we're marked out for first in our baptism is the source of our hope. And that we are, as Pope Francis talks about when he wrote about the Jubilee year, we're pilgrims of hope, that because of the cross and resurrection of Jesus, are marked out for a certain destiny, a certain direction, leading to the full encounter with the Lord of glory. Of course, here in the Mass, we participate in and have a communion in this mystery of Jesus' death and resurrection, which gives us that promise of hope of a life that lasts forever, no matter what our circumstances are here on earth. But also knowing that when we reach out to the Lord and tap into the source of life, we find our ultimate blessedness and that contentment that's deep down in our life, for that peace that we all long for deep down. So as we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, let's maybe ask for that grace, that he indeed may flood us again with his very life, that we may remain rooted in him now and towards the life that never ends.